Welcome to episode 21 of Deep Dive. Thanks for giving us a week off last week. Last week was just, it just got away from us. We had a lot going on. Since our last podcast, I took teenagers on our winter retreat, which was the coldest weekend of my life. I think Saturday was okay. We went to bed and I was like, hey guys, good news. It's -1, but it feels like 1 degree outside. So bundle up if you got to go to the restroom. But it was a good weekend. We just talked about, God's overarching story of He created us to be with Him. We fall, but God redeems and restores us. And just talk about, we talked a lot about where your arrow is pointing. Is it pointing at us, or is it pointing out, up to God and out to others? So it was really a really good retreat, despite the cold. We also had our board retreat. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Board retreat is so interesting. The one of the major things I remember about that is, we walked in not knowing, when the group comes in to help us, and they're just amazing. And at the end of the meeting, it was so interesting because Adam goes, we just went through our vision.
Yeah, they had three things they wanted to talk about that day, and the three things tied in well to the vision of our church. Of connecting with people, collaborating with them, joining them on the journey, and then celebrating what God is doing. And
connecting, collaborating,
and celebration.
Man, I'm telling you, that was he remembers every bit of it. I'm so glad he's here. But it was a great day, great fellowship with each other, and just some good conversations about the changing culture around us and the changing culture of the church and how we engage. And we're just praying for, we talked about tribes a little bit. I was thinking of some of those tribes this morning that, during this season has just had a rough time reconnecting all these things, and just that we are part of the process in the process of just doing our best to reconnect and make sure people are part of the vision, mission, and core, and really embrace the core values of our church. So it's a good day.
Yeah, and they took a picture of the board at the end, just as kind of a sign of unity, just kind of like saying, look, we're all focused on the same goal here, and that's making disciples for Christ. And your board's working hard to grow deeper in relationship with God and each other, and allowing that to fan out into our congregation. Before we move too much further, I wanted to hit a couple announcements. There's a children's Valentine's party, aka babysitting night, on February 4th. I think the times are 5:30 to 8:30. Again, donations for pizza. We'll have pizza, play some games, watch a movie. Our annual business meeting, did I get that term right?
Yes, you did.
February 13th. That's going to be, I believe, during the life group time in between services.
Yes, it will be.
And then at some point in 2022, we will have life studies.
It's going to happen. I think this week it may happen.
I don't know. There's snow forecast on Friday now.
Is there really? Okay. Well, that was we kind of had life studies in our group because just texting about football. And, we were going back and forth, but, we missed that. I had guys, that was a ministry to me this week because there were guys who really wanted to get together, but they understood. Yeah. And we're all there, and, we're excited about what God's going to do there.
So take a moment, even though we haven't had them, to, if you've not seen somebody or just missed their presence, just text them, reach out to them, say, hey, I miss you, how's life, that kind of thing. But so I had an interesting thought at the end of your sermon on Sunday, and we'll start here and see where it goes. You were talking about sanctity of human life Sunday, right at the very end, and you were preaching on the passage in Luke where the four men bring their paralyzed friend to Christ to be healed. And something I never thought about before was that guy had friends, and in that culture, he was a outcast, right? He was set aside. The beggars, the paralyzed, they were seen as less than, and I never put it together that he had friends, and how odd that was that he had friends, and just how those four friends saw that man and he mattered to them, and they were able to look past the disability or whatever was there, that was whatever was making him be viewed as less than in the culture, and say, you matter, and because you matter, I'm going to take you to Jesus. and how cool that was, and talking about how everybody has value because they're created in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
Every individual has value because they're created in the image of God. And I just thought that was an interesting tie. I don't think you did that on purpose, but that's where my mind went.
Well, it was a summation of our week.
Yeah.
It's something about stepping in the pulpit after a week that we had with our friend dying. He died about a month and a half ago, and that really caught me. It was a journey. One thing I mentioned in the sermon, as a pastor, we have, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of families, and there are those moments where I'm welcomed in to and he was a single man that just really gave us a run. He was a guy but as he started heading towards eternity, in heaven with the Lord, he started realizing some things and wrestling with some things, and he became my one, and I talked about that, where I can't do everything for everybody, but I can do something for one.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you think you're going to do something for everybody, it really it paralyzes you, because you don't do anything. I see this all the time in leadership and stuff, because you're overwhelmed. That happens to me.
I do that all the time.
Oh, and you just kind of go, well,
I can't do this for you because then I got to do it for everybody.
Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, but and that limits the scope of what God can do when we, it comes to discernment, all these things. And there were three things about these men that, and there's really a fourth. That camaraderie, to have a friend that the culture looked at and said, oh man, you must have done something really wrong. And they get together. I painted this image of four men grabbing the corners of his stretcher. One guy's always a leader, and then probably had a couple guys going, what are we doing? And I can just imagine when if you don't know the story, they get to the house, Jesus is teaching, it's surrounded by so many people, it's just overwhelmed, and it's quite the crowd, because the Pharisees are there, and the teachers of the law are there, and it's just a giant, it's a conference, and all of a sudden these men come up, and they have to make a decision. And there's always a leader in a group, and that leader's going, okay, we're going to go up the roof and up to the roof, and the houses that they had a way to get there, still in the Middle East, are there. And I can just see all the friends going, they're thinking for a second, the three other friends, and going, okay, we're all in. And, they were driven by compassion, and compassion can do a lot. When you have compassion for someone and you engage them and love them just the way they are. Sometimes I hear in church, and sadly I hear in church, I'm so tired of the story, and I'm like, oh man, when they're telling you their story, what they're doing is they're opening up and saying, hey, this is who I am, will you accept me? Mm-hmm. And these men had compassion on this man, even though it was a social faux pas. Mm-hmm. They had compassion on this man. It probably, there were probably so many variables that they could have said, okay, enough. But they said, no, we're going to have compassion on this man, our friend. And then they were innovative. I was trying to get back, just thinking back what the conversation was like. Maybe these four friends were hanging out. They were thinking about their buddy, who would probably say, man, I wish he could be with us, but he can't right now. He's in physical therapy, whatever. And they're sitting there talking, and the idea springs. Mm-hmm. They hear that Jesus is there, and they go, okay, how are we going to, if we can just get him in front of Jesus. And, it didn't take a ton of innovation, but it was innovation that led to creativity. Because they innovated in a way where they got him there. They thought, okay, this is whole new ball game with Jesus, whole new ball game. The message we've heard about him healing other people. This is an amazing moment. We're going to be creative, and we're going to go get our friend. And then the creativity had to continue, because they had to take him up to the top of the roof, rip through the roof, and they just keep going. And,
you know what else? It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy assignment. Their plan that they came up with. It was a lot of work.
No, the mission is. I find very rarely that the mission is easy. If we're really honest about it, and we're just all messy, and there's so much. I love Yaconelli wrote a book years ago, Messy Spirituality, and as we deal with that and all the variables and all those things, and but I think one of the greatest gifts we give to the people around us, especially those who don't know Jesus, is for them to see the cooperation and teamwork
Mm-hmm.
when they're in crisis or they're walking through something, to be able to engage those moments and love them where they're at and continue to walk. And and I just, when I can't imagine, could you imagine the moment those four friends are standing there, because they're all standing room only crowd, and they're standing there and they're going, okay, I'm getting tired because I'm holding this rope, but what's going on down there? And it's not like the scene changed and they went down the stairs. No, they had a bird's eye view, literally, of their friend walking, Jesus having that drop in the mic moment and walking away. And can you imagine it just gets me emotional. The connection. I mean, this first time those five friends could jump together. You know what I mean? Guys, they're jumping, and the guy's like, look at this, man, look what God did. But he not only allowed me to walk, he forgave me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are moments where we will engage those people, and they might not have an ailment that's physical, but that they're just mentally just going not just so hard to even be around. And we meet them there, and we get to rejoice with them. I think of my friends just singing with them that one day, the song that we used to sing together. It's not a worship song, but it was a song because it was "These Are My Friends," and we are, we sing that song. We haven't sung it in a while. The Chris Tomlin "Friends of God," I'm a friend of God. Oh. And we don't have to. We're okay with that. But that song really encapsulates. We have a relationship with God, that vertical relationship. You and I were talking about this earlier. That vertical relationship. And then that vertical relationship leads to how we engage people.
I read something about, I forget what I was reading, but I read something about how those two are really related. Mm-hmm. How when you're growing in that vertical relationship with God, it'll increase your relationship with other and vice versa. Like they're very much intertwined. It's hard to have one growing without the other one also growing.
And your relation, and really just saying what you said, all your relationships are affected either negatively or positively by your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of play the game, but it eventually catches up to you. And how many people do we know that did that, have done that, and it catches up to them? And thank God for grace and mercy and all those things. But the question I have today, as you're listening, who's your one? And with that one, are you driven by compassion? Are you innovative? Might be a cup of coffee, or find out where the favorite restaurant is, take them out to lunch, and just spending time with them. And do you have people that are surrounding you with your one? It wasn't just, one of those guys was primary in his life, but there were three other people that were walking with him. I was thinking about, how do we apply this as a church? I mean, if we have those people that are hurting, they're spiritually hurting, how do we get the one in there and then surround them with people? I had a conversation last night about that, as I think more and more in the culture, as people get more depressed and more overwhelmed, it's going to take more than just one, but that one is the catalyst to get those things moving. And that's small groups are about that, all the things we do, but also having a cup of coffee with someone and stepping in and saying, hey, I love you and I'm going to invest some time in you because I think you're worth it.
And that was something that I was kind of challenged with, just based off the three big events that I've had recently, the winter retreat, the youth retreat, the youth retreat, the board retreat, and then that culminating on Sunday. I was dropping my kids off at school last week, and there's a giant heart and a little, just it says "You matter," and I'm going. Sometimes I get blown away that I think our culture strives for things that the church doesn't do so well, and I'm like, man, that's boiling down. The greatest commandment, to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love neighbors as yourself. Not agreeing with them, not excusing things, not overlooking things, but interacting with them in spite of all of those things in a way that says you matter, right? And it's not giving up on truth. It's not all of those other things that we think sometimes it is. It's in spite of those things. Can I make my interaction with you happen in a way that you feel like you matter to me? And that's a gateway to relationship. That's an archway to getting that person to understand that God loves them. Because Romans, is it 5:8? while we were still sinners, Christ, we didn't have it all together when Jesus laid down his life for us. We mattered to him, even though there was nothing good in us that warranted us mattering to him. And it doesn't mean he just said, yeah, go do whatever you want, right? He said, but you matter to me. You matter. And interacting in a way, we talked about that with Unity on Saturday at the board retreat. Unity is looking past necessarily the stance that someone might have to see the person. And that's what these friends did. They looked past what was a social faux pas. I can't think about that word, faux pas.
Social faux pas.
A guy that was socially discarded, and looking past whatever that reason was that discarded him and said, you matter. And so I've been challenged to try and figure out how I can interact with people in a way that no matter what differences we may have, no matter what relation we have, to interact and say, you matter. How can I talk to you today and make you feel like you matter?
Well, something caught me this week because years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, we had a laundry caught on fire, and there was a chance it would have burned down our house, and just God kept it, God kept it within a room, and in fact, I was talking with a friend of mine last night. She still remembers what that looked like. She was there. She had picked up our children and taken them home, and so the guys show up to drop off the dryer. And these guys were so awesome, and they drove up. My driveway's still icy, and they drove up, and I'm like, dude, are you okay? He's like, oh man, we're in the Poconos all the time, no problem. And I really liked them, and just right when I met them, I liked them both. And so first thing I think is, man, they're going out of their way. I at least want to give them a cup of coffee or buy them lunch or something. So I go in, and he's doing it, and we're just chatting. And I come around, and somehow we got in a conversation, asked me what I did, and that's why I'm pastor at First Baptist, and we were talking, and they're like, oh, I know where that is, and we're talking, and I come back and I go, guys, we don't have any cash in this house, and I really wanted to bless you. And they start sharing, and they go, will you just pray with us? So I felt the presence of God in that moment. I literally put my arms around those. I didn't know them. I put my arms around those guys. We're in this room that literally could have, years ago was such a painful place. I still have a scar on my hand. And I had my arm around these guys, 30-year-old guys, nicest guys. And I put my arm around them and just started praying for them. And having compassion and love and just being creative and saying, hey, they told me some of their dreams, and I'm praying for the dreams. And, and Amy's like, what's going on? And it's just, we have the ability to step into people's lives. And they may be our one for a moment.
Right.
Step into people's lives and just love them. But do something. Don't be paralyzed by the overwhelming. You see all the need. Focus on your one.
Yeah.
So what a great weekend. This weekend's going to be a lot of fun. And, get involved. If you're not involved in a life study or a life group, get involved. And don't expect instant friendships. Work on those things. Work on those things and try and continue. And I can tell you one thing. I was in the life study the other day, and I heard the one next door, and they were having a ball. It was life groups in the morning. Sorry, I get those mixed up. But they were having a good time, and we're studying. They were saying about worship. The other one's in deep into the Old Testament. But yeah, be a part. Come in and be a part of the process of reaching the one.
So thanks for joining us today. I hope this was encouraging to you and challenging, and just look for those opportunities, like Pastor said here. Look for those opportunities to model and reflect Christ to those in your life. So thanks for joining us, and have a good week.